Welcome along people to another one of my little videos. Welcome back to my garage. Today I'm going to take the wheels off of my bike so I can go and get new tyres put on my wheels. Join me after the intro. I have got Michelin Anarchy Adventure tyres on at the moment, and they've done 8,624 miles to date, and that's from you obviously. I didn't want to go with the Anarchy tyres. What I found, personally speaking, from brand spanking new, if that's your two tyres front and back, I found that they almost wanted a tram line, and they were brand new. They were pumped up correctly and the bike wasn't overloaded, but the tyres felt like they were doing that when the bike was upright and in a straight line, which I found a little bit disconcerting. Apparently tyres are in short supply at the moment, at least that's what I've been told. So if you need tyres for your bike, go and get them. So I've never used a Continental Trail Attack tyre before. So yeah, only time will tell. So let's get on with taking the wheels off so I can bring the tyres to the tyre fitter. Now I don't suggest you try this at home. And yes, that strap is attached to my handlebars. And there's a reason for that. Because when I take the front wheel out in a little while, I'm going to put the axle back in, and then I'm going to rest it onto an axle stand. But I want to just make 101% sure that the bike can't fall forward off of the center stand, because that is going to have to sit there all night long without any wheels on it. Okay? Nearly forgot, my channel sponsor bought me some gloves, aka my wife. I have never had the front wheel or the back wheel off of this bike from new. I guess this is the only downside of having a road lock on your bike, is when it comes time to fitting a new tyre or doing brake pads, the road lock has to come off as well. While I have it off, I can give it a quick clean and make sure that it's all serviceable for the next time it goes back on. One caliper off, two caliper off. Just going to be careful now while I take out the spindle the rest of the way. There is a spacer in here ready to fall out. And that went quite well. Right, there's one spacer on the ABS wheel side, which is just going in the magnet dish, and then the wheel can literally just wheel itself forward, front tyre out, spindle goes back in. That's going to rest there like that. Right, let's go around the back. First things first, around the back, I want to take those 3 Torx bolts out of there. Do you know what? It never ceases to amaze me. I haven't loosened these They're just not that tight, are they? Now if you can see, there's a bit of pink or redness on the thread. That's Loctite, but they were really, really loose. Next, of course, will be the caliper bolts. Yeah, that's got blue Loctite on it, so that's super duper stuff. I have obviously sped this bit up to save everybody the boredom, but if there's a quicker and better way of taking the caliper off of the back of a BMW R1250GSA, please let me know in the comment section down below. Thank you very much. Okay, I've slackened the brake pad off. Hopefully it should give me a little bit more room. There isn't any more room between the spokes though, is there? There was a great deal of swearing. The sky and the air was quite thick and blue by the end. So I tried to keep this as a family show, so I've turned the sound down. Thank you very much. Ta-da! I'd like to give you some advice as to how I got that off, but I'm not going to. It was a faff. Okay, so next is the 5 T50 torque bolts in the middle of the wheel. This is where I make Chad laugh and speed up the sound.
Eins, zwei, drei, vier,
And it's off. In fact, it fell off all by itself. And that wasn't part of the plan. Who knew? There you go. I don't know if you can see, but across the centre of the tyre is quite flat. And I guess if you really, really, really wanted to be a Scrooge, you could probably ride that bike with this tyre on for another 500 or 600 miles. But that would be its lot. New tyres. When I put the rear wheel back in, put all the bolts back in to the rear wheel, I want to torque it up. Now my torque wrench is 1/2 inch, and the drive on this is 3/4, so that won't fit into that. I nearly went and bought a new torque wrench just so I could torque up the rear wheel. So I went along to Halford's, and instead of paying £86 for a torque wrench, I bought this. It's a converter. So that drive in there, where my little finger is 1/2 inch, and the drive on the other end of it is 3/4. So that now fits in there, and that fits on there. So I can now torque up the bolts in my rear wheel. Okay, top tip. Oh, while I'm at it, I also got some Loctite. Loctite does exactly what it says on the tin, except they're not tins, they're little bottles. But you will find, I don't know if you remember, when I was pointing at the bolts that hold on the rear caliper, I said there was like a pinky deposit. Well, that was Loctite, and that's red Loctite. And the bolts for the rear wheel, they have a blue residue, and that's blue Loctite. What's the difference apart from the colour? It's slightly more permanent. One's slightly more permanent than the other. This one's like a liquid. So you need to put a little bit on just at the end of the thread, and as you thread it in, it'll kind of work its way up. And this one, if you ask your wife or your girlfriend, this is a little bit more like lipstick. I'll go and get the lid in a minute. You screw it out, and it's quite waxy actually. But once you put a little piece on one side of the thread, you don't need to go all the way right around the bolt. Just do one side of the bolt, and just at the end, and as you thread it in, it'll spread its way around the thread. That's that. Okay, like that. And I'll do the same thing on each one of the bolts. They say necessity is the mother of inventions. Anyhow, I don't know if this is an invention or not, but what I've done here, because I was struggling to get the bolt in, is I've put a little piece of wood underneath the wheel. I don't have to lift the wheel anymore now. So the first bolt is in with the aid of a piece of wood. And repeat. As the sound effects department is going a little bit overboard, I think, on this one. Last but not least, number 5. All right with the sound effects. You get the idea. I'm going to tighten them up, and then I'm going to switch off at this point, tighten them all up, and then torque them. According to the manual and everybody else that I've asked, this is 60 Newton meters on the rear wheel. There you go. Done. Oh dear. Now this shouldn't be, but this is going to be, without a shadow of a doubt, the hardest part of the whole job. And like I say, it shouldn't be. It was a faff to get off, and I should imagine it's going to be a faff to get back on. Okay, so this is the bolt for the caliper, and as you can probably see, just about, there's a little bit of blue residue in there as well, so I'm going to do the same for that. Well, they say you learn by your mistakes. If I had have taken the caliper off after I'd taken the wheel off, and if I'd put the caliper on before I'd put the wheel back on, I wouldn't have had the faff. As I understand it, and I'm not a mechanic, disclaimer, that just cures or goes off and locks the locks your bolts and your nuts in place. Right, let's see. Ta-da! Brilliant. Right, it's on. One bolt in there. Before I do anything else, what I shall do is pump up the back brake, because as soon as I ride off down the road, the brake pads will be too far apart. So by pumping up the brake, I bring the brake pads back onto the disc, and I'll have a brake. Well, I did say I was going to move around the front, and I also did say that this was red. The bottle's red. Turns out the contents aren't. Anyway, it's liquid. I just thought I'd show you the last bolt. Just put a little bit like that on there. And that will spread itself around the thread. Okay, I am now round the front of the motorcycle. I have cleaned the road lock, which is going to go on the other side. If you haven't seen or don't know what a road lock is, I shall put a link in the description of another video of when I fitted the road lock to my bike. It's effectively a locking system. I have cleaned and greased the front spindle. All I need now is a front wheel. Right, let's get this fitted in here. I'm gonna put a little squirt of grease in there, and hopefully that should hold my spacer in place. I'll probably wipe most of my grease off now. Oh, let's not spray it on the disc. That's a bad idea. You don't want grease on your disc. I most certainly don't want grease on mine. Nice. And then the nut goes in there. Look at that. Tighten that up. Lovely. This here is what I was talking about earlier, the road lock. So this goes over the disc. So effectively it's a disc lock that you carry with you on your motorbike everywhere you go. Basically that just fits on there like that. Copper grease, bit of copper grease, lovely bit of copper grease. It's a lovely colour. And when you're putting metal into aluminium, especially as it lives outdoors most of its life, the chances are your metal and your aluminium can oxidize, and then they lock, and then when you come to taking your bolt out to try and service your brakes, you won't get your bolt out, but you'll strip all your thread. So buy yourself a pot or a tube of copper grease, and I'm going to do the same thing on this one here. I'm going to put a bit of this on here. What I would say is, when you put your calipers back on, same thing I did with the rear brake, do with the front brake. While you remember, give it a few pumps. All of the bolts in the front end are not tight. A couple of them, and now tighten everything up. In theory, the wheel should spin round and not bind. To be fair, that's rubbing on the pads a little bit, but I think that's okay. Right, let's tighten everything up. Bit of copper slip on there. That's tight enough. Copper slip. Copper slip, copper slip. Does whatever copper slip does. Does it lock up a thread? No, it doesn't. Just like I said. 'Cause it's copper slip. So they are Continental Trail Attack 3. And that was me fitting them. Hopefully you've enjoyed this one, people. Look after yourself, take care, until next time, bye bye. So please leave a thumbs up, or if you haven't enjoyed the video, leave a thumbs down. Please leave a comment in the comment section below if you have enjoyed the video. Don't forget to ding dong the notification bell, and that way you will never ever ever miss another video here on a Mad Leprechaun. Until next time, people, take care of yourself, bye bye. Comes out of there, and that comes out of there, like that.